Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish. It makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. I'm so happy to have met another friend online. Today we have Vernon Harris. Welcome, Vernon, to the show. How are you?
Thank you very much, Nelia. I am very well, thank you. And thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome. As soon as I heard you speak, I was like, I need to send this gentleman an invitation because I really love how passionate you are about the topics we're going to be talking about today. So I want to let you guys know we're going to jump right in, no small talk. I just want to know, at the end of this episode, I want you guys to reach out to me and tell me what you've learned because this is going to be a very important topic today. So Vernon Harris, he is an intuitive transformational therapist. He uses his intuition to help people like me and like you free ourselves from anxiety, from weight, and from addiction. As a former teacher of 18 years, he quickly realized that by stepping out of the educational system, he could better coach and mentor individuals. One of the things I'm going to ask Vernon today is how do we use intuition? But we're not there yet. He uses therapeutic tools also, such as hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, NLP, and counseling to empower and transform people's lives. When Vernon is not working, he is practicing Tai Chi, meditation, and walking in nature. Welcome, Vernon. I am so happy that you are sharing the microphone with me today.
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.
So on this show, we like to bring experts like you and genuine people. We don't have anybody. I've interviewed over 200 guests and I have not had one person which has not been genuine, who has not been heart-centered. I'm very choosy and I can tell right away who I'm bringing onto the show. So one of the things that I love to do on this podcast is really take people through a journey of where we've come from and where we are now so that people can feel a little bit less alone, so they can feel that we get it. We're not just, reading books and coming on here and teaching and talking. We've actually been through some things that have brought us here. And I think that just makes everybody feel closer together and just to get to know you as a human being a little bit better. So Vernon, tell me who you are on a basic level as a human.
Who am I on a basic level? I'm a father. I've been a husband twice. I'm now single. But I've enjoyed my life. I've enjoyed every minute of my life with ups and downs, and there's been many. As I said, I came from the Caribbean age 9, landed in a country that was cold. And imagine the effect of coming here age 9 in a short pair of short trousers and short sleeve shirt. It was quite a shock. So that sets its own trauma. And then finding myself in those kind of situations. And then coming to a mother who I hadn't seen for a number of years. And finding I had other brothers there was all those emotional traumas to deal with, the different country, the different situation, and then being in a situation where you felt like you were dealing with this by yourself, because you couldn't really turn to anyone else. Your mom didn't quite understand everything that was going on inside of you, You didn't quite know how to explain it. So you just had to muddle through. And then many years later, those same things have helped me to become the person I am today. So I don't look back and regret anything that's happened to me now, because I've actually analyzed those situations. And that's one thing I like to do, is to analyze things that's happened to me and find the positive energy within them and what the way they're moving forward to. So I'm always looking to progress forward.
That's beautiful. I love when somebody is looking to learn about themselves. It's so very important. And so I want to ask, how did you get into this business, this life of meditation, of intuition, of peaceful living? Like how did this come about?
If I, the easiest thing I can say is that I fell into it. It's almost like I believe we're divinely guided.
Mm,
And I moved from Leeds up in Yorkshire down to London, where my first marriage fell apart. But in that process, through that marriage, I also realized that there was something not right in myself, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Now, back in the 70s, you wouldn't expect somebody like me to go to a hypnotherapist.
right.
It was an unheard of situation, but I did. Around 75, I went to see a hypnotherapist. He used to smoke between 20 to 30 cigarettes a day as well. So I went to him for two reasons. I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
So I went to him and says, what was wrong with me? Can you help me? He did. And a few years later, I did give up smoking, but it was with his help. I also realized at that point that hypnotherapy and that kind of work had a benefit and could help people who wasn't able to see their own problems. And as I've gone along in time, I've learned a lot more. Then after having a second marriage and coming out of that, I ended up teaching.
Mm.
That was possibly one of the best things for me. Is I enjoyed enlightening people, watching those kids coming out of their exam and saying they've achieved their results, or having the kids come up to me and say thank you, because they know that I made a difference to their life. So spent after 18 years of teaching, and then the system in the UK started to go downhill in my books.
Mm.
The kids wasn't being taught anymore. They were just given exams and says, study those past exams. That's not educating. That's not teaching people to be thinkers or to be entrepreneurs or people who want to go out there and achieve things. They're just learning to regurgitate stuff and memorize things. So I decided to get out of it, because in that process of time, I'd done 5 years of training as a therapist, psychotherapist, done elements of NLP and counseling all rolled into one. So 2008, I thought, I had enough, walked away from teaching and started my therapy work, because I felt I could do much better if I educated and I helped the adults so that they can help the children.
I love that for so many reasons, but when you say that, I think of two things. So the first is that you were being the person you were missing at 9 years old. Because do you know what I mean? Like the teachers, the community members, somebody to help guide you through that feeling of, wow, I'm in a new place. I'm not used to this thing. So many things are different around me as a 9-year-old boy. And it's like you're now playing that role for somebody, which I love and respect so much. And the other thing I heard you say was just to remind us that education is teaching people how to be thinkers, teaching outside the box. And so many times education becomes something that is regurgitated over and over, despite the changes that are really happening around us, and despite the changes in the society. Like it doesn't move with it. And I don't necessarily know that it's intentional. I think it's just a lot of people going through the system, and it gets stale.
My personal views on that is that The system has developed on a process of creating workers.
Mm.
That is, to me, is what the educational system is aimed at. It's creating people that it's only the extraordinary people who think. You get the odd people with, and most of those extraordinary people have not even completed their full education. A lot of the main big people, they've left education or the mainstream education. They've left school. You know, Henry Ford,
Yeah.
and people like that. They did not go through the whole school process, but yet you look at what they've achieved. So I think they realized that education system was important, and to me, that's why I say the educational system wants changing worldwide, because things like meditation is not taught in school.
Yeah.
So, and to me, meditation is a fundamental process of getting people in touch with themselves.
Yes.
That is one of the reasons why I used to run little meditation groups here and stuff like that in my early years when I got into into spiritual development after I started doing martial arts way back in the 1980s. But I got into martial arts because I had a very angry part of myself. And most people believe martial arts is about fighting. I actually say to people, martial arts isn't about fighting. It's about knowing yourself.
And letting go, right?
Exactly.
Letting
That
go.
was what I found, that the more I actually learned that, and that's when my spiritual side started to develop. I started to connect to a part of me that wasn't external. I could sense how a person was feeling, even without, just by their words, their body language, the way they came across. That's why now I can actually do stuff, or I can work with clients on Zoom, because I can feel their energy through the Zoom channel. It's almost like I connect to them on a level where I can feel where they're at. And as I saw a client who suddenly went from being there, he sat up straight just for some of the instructions I gave him. And he came out, and it was like he was a different person sitting in front of me. That's the kind of energy, and that's the kind of thing that can, when you connect with somebody from the heart, you can feel your heart connect to their heart. You can feel everything within them, and you can help them to lift that. Because at the end of the day, to me, the conscious mind is like the top part of an iceberg. The unconscious mind that controls all our programs. You know, you got a computer, you put a program in it, and it does what it's told. The difference with a human being is that our programming, you hear a lot of people say, I don't know why I did something. The only reason they don't know is because they're not consciously aware of what's controlling them. And so many people live their life like a robot. They sit there and all they do is regurgitate things, because most people programs are set between the age of 0 to 10. Your foundation, everything you live on as you grow older, that's where your foundation is, 0 to 10. And
So
that's
Vernon, sorry, when somebody lives like that on autopilot, I know what this is like because I did it for a long time and I was miserable. And I think a lot of people live on autopilot, and so they don't live their authentic life. Every day looks the same. What do you think is the biggest change when someone decides to stop doing that? Like, how can their life become different?
funny enough, one of the biggest thing a person can do is to just change one simple thing in their life. To do something different. The example of what I'm actually talking about was a gentleman who went to see my supervisor. Now, he had a thing, he came in front door, put his bag down, went straight to the drinks. And he ended up, my supervisor said, have you got a back door in one of his sessions? And he says, tell you what you do, next time you come home, don't go to the front door, go through the back door. And that simple single little change made a massive difference to his habit of drinking.
Wow.
And and sometimes people think it's the big things because they think it's going to be dramatic. It's the simple little changes that we make. And once we make those things habitual, other things will start to fall into place. Yes, sometimes we need help. And that's where people like myself come in. Because if it's too big a situation, they might need a bit of guidance to help themselves make those changes. So that's why I call myself an intuitive transformational therapist.
I love it. And I love that you shared that story. For me, I would, if I took a certain way home from work, I passed by the donut place, you know, and like, I'm going to start taking a different route home. And actually got me home quicker. And it was such a small thing. But at the end of the week, I'm like, I didn't stop for a donut today. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I completely agree. It's the small things that don't take a lot of effort. Sometimes when things take a lot of effort, we stop.
And that is the point. If you have to put effort into something, you're always going to have what I call the ego mind telling you, you shouldn't do that. You mustn't do that. And the thing is, to me, the ego, we all need the ego, because ego is about being able to live on this planet as well. But the mind that really is important is the little mind that speaks to you, that tells you there's a problem down there, or there's a situation. It's not a major voice, it's just a feeling. You may be walking down the road and all of a sudden you get a feeling to turn right instead of keep going straight. And those little feelings, we ignore them. And then you walk down the road and something happens, and you think, why didn't I go that way?
It's true.
It's listening to those little voices, and they're so subtle. And because the ego is so noisy, most people ignore those little subtle messages and those little subtle voices that comes in. And that's why when I work with clients, I give them I will create subliminal recordings for them to actually play. Because their conscious mind isn't listening, but their subconscious mind or their deeper mind is always listening. So this is where subliminal information is very important. You work with a client to get the right kind of information that they desire, that they need. I create a recording for them, and they then play that recording, and it gets fed straight to their subconscious. It bypasses their conscious mind, which is, to me, is our biggest problem, to be honest.
And it's individual. So it's not like the education system where one works for everybody. So I love that it's very tailored. So today's episode, I want to learn from you how we take this intuition of ours and how it helps us with our mental health. So with like our anxiety, our depression, things like that. So I suffer from anxiety and depression. Yeah. And before we started recording, you were talking about the different types of anxiety. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that so that people, if people are unclear, if they've even experienced, or some people may be really clear because it hits you in the face and you live with it every day.
Yeah. You got general anxiety, which is everybody has at some point in their life where they're feeling a little bit offset or a bit out of tune with what's going on. They may get a little bit irritated, and these are all anxiety signs that you may be getting a little bit anxious about a situation. You may be in a situation where something happens, you start to get fearful or fight about it. That's creating an anxiety energy within you. And if it happens often enough, it can get more and worse. Being in a social situation where you're not comfortable around certain people, they can create, you're in a crowd and you don't like crowd, they call it social phobias. That can create anxieties. And then if you don't get it dealt with early enough, it gets worse and worse, because the more your mind starts to focus on these situations, the more they get stronger. because each time you think about it, each time you reinforce it, your mind develops a stronger link to it. And when you add emotions of any kind to it, see, emotion is the biggest key to driving something into the unconscious mind. So when you're fearful or you're in a social event and that then becomes locked in, it drives it straight. So every little thing that happens socially then becomes it comes from there and it becomes massive. No matter how small it is, it's like any trauma. Most traumas are seconds. When you talk to somebody that's suffering from trauma, it took the whole day. But it's only seconds. I've seen that where one guy, when we narrowed it down, it was about maybe half a minute. But as far as he's concerned, it was from morning till night. This is but you also got panic attacks. And these panic attacks can come from any form of situation. And they could have happened when that child was young. The young lady came to me was afraid of thunder and lightning. It happened when she was 4 years old. She got left on the beach. It was thunder and lightning. What's a 4-year-old going to feel? You got all this noise around her. So I created a cartoon image. And I actually told her that it was Mr. Thunder and Mrs. Lightning having a fight. Just cracking up laughing on the So it's finding ways of actually, so that's another thing. You know, all kinds of phobias, stress. I believe most, or if not all, health situation has an underlying element of stress. And we all live with some form of stress. Some people learn to live with such a high level of stress, they don't even realize how much damage it's doing to their body. So these are all things that we have. And to me, learning to keep yourself still, sometimes it only takes 5 minutes to close your eyes and shut the world out. It can re-energize and revitalize people. People don't take time to smell. There's a saying, take time to smell the roses. And not enough people take time to do that.
Most of us don't even see the roses.
And it's exactly that. And that's where, most people think they have to meditate for a long time. 5, 10, 15 minutes a day is more than enough. And meditation is about necessarily quietening your mind. Meditation is about getting your mind focused in a particular level. Yes, your mind will always get noisy. And first of all, it starts off with noisy, but if you stay with it, then the mind will start to quieten down. So it's just about giving the mind time to get used to the idea of sitting still. It'll start to say something, and you say, okay, it's fine, we'll deal with that in a minute. You go back. And every time the mind interrupts or you just say, oh, we'll deal with that in 5 minutes, and we'll go back. And each time you do that, it gets less and less and less. And after a while, you'll find you can go in and it's like, is that 15 minutes already? You think, oh, that was quick.
And it's almost like, but it's almost like there's two things here. So there's one, what do you do in the moment of the panic attack? And what do you do to prevent? So I think the meditation really works well. Like for me personally, everybody is different, but for me, it helps prevent things from becoming bigger.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a panic attack, sometimes I can't be still.
Okay. You see, you just said an ideal word that everybody says. Can't.
Yes, you're right.
The instant you tell yourself you can't, guess what you've just done? You've reprogrammed yourself to. So you get into it and automatically your mind already says, you can't.
Thank you for pointing that out.
So when something's happening, of course you can find, but like you say, because we're in such a fearful situation, there's a number of things people can do. And some people will tell you you can put a rubber band on your wrist and just pull it, and it's just that sudden little shock. You've got a situation where you can actually create things that you can say. For instance, you can start to think about something that's good in your life, or find nice times in your life and spend time. So one of the things I do when I teach people is I get them to actually relax, find a nice, positive time in their life, a good time in their life when they were happy, peaceful. And then I get them to put their first finger and thumb together. Now you can do this walking down the road.
Mm.
First finger and thumb together. And as they put the first finger and thumb together, they lock that into every single muscle cell in their body. And then once they've got that set, we get them to increase it 10 times stronger. Then they relax, let go of the fingers. And I get them to actually start to think of maybe the anxiety time or something that triggers an anxiety. And as soon as they start to feel the anxiety coming in, I get them to then place that first finger and thumb together. And as they do so, it then allows them to pull in that positive information I gave them.
So Vernon, thank you so much for sharing those tools with us. And I want to know, does hypnotherapy, can that help when someone is suffering from anxiety?
Hypnotherapy can help with literally, I don't think there's many things we can't help with. The thing is, not every hypnotherapist can help everyone. Because the thing is, you have to find someone. That's why I do a 30-minute taster session. Because I don't want to waste people's time, and I don't want them to waste my time. So I give them an opportunity to see me, so I can and talk to me, and then they can decide whether I'm the person they want to work with, and vice versa. Because at the end of the day, certain people, not everybody, it's not everyone that you can gel with.
Yes, of course.
Or else it's not going to happen, because first thing is people's got to trust you. They have to have faith and believe that you can help them. And that's my job when I speak to people in that 30-minute taster session. They can actually know me, get to know me, and I can get to know them. And I can make decisions from that, whether I can take them with. And I most of the time I work with people, if I can't help them, if I can't see massive change within the first 4 sessions, I've got to start looking at what's not happening and what either I have been given all the right information.
Right.
So that's what that's about. So yes, it's very, very little things that hypnotherapy can't work with if and again, the person's got to be willing to do some of the work.
I was going to say, we can't, we need a community sometimes, or a coach or a therapist, somebody to help us along the journey. But before we even get there, we have to choose. We want our life to be different, our problem to be solved. We need to make the decision that we're no longer going to be sabotaging our own life. It's a hard step to take. It's a hard step to take to say, like with me, I'm just going to give you an example. So before I learned all of these things, so I had a lot of anxiety, and then I got depressed because I'm like, oh, people think I'm crazy, so I must be crazy. And now I've got a label. We were talking about that, and crazy, and why do I have to have this label of being crazy? And then I'm like, well, I can't help myself. So even if I go see somebody, nothing's going to change, because I don't think it will change. Then I went from, okay, I'm worth more than this life that I'm giving myself. I deserve to be happy. I am not crazy. My anxiety doesn't define me. It's something that comes up for me. It's not who I am. And as soon as I started separating those two things, I allowed myself to make that important decision. Then I could go and get help. whether it was medication, anxiety groups, different people to talk to. So I think that's a really big step.
It is a big step, because at the end of the day, no one can help you until you decide that you need help.
Mhm.
An alcoholic can't be helped by anyone unless they actually reach a point where they says, you know what? It's like, take for instance, one of my brothers recently. He came to that conclusion.
Mm.
He's now in a position where he's making a change. But until someone makes that decision, that, and it's no good. It's like a lot of smokers. They come to me, they want to give up smoking. Question is, do you want to give up smoking, or are you giving it up for someone else?
Yes.
Because a lot of the time, some people will give up smoking because they've been nagged by their wives, they've been nagged by their children, they've been nagged. Funny thing, I was nagged by my children to give up smoking, and later on, one of them started smoking, but they've now given up. Thank God for that. But this is a
Yeah.
point. You've got to do it for yourself. Because if you don't do it for yourself, it's not going to work. It
Yes.
doesn't matter which coach you go to, or
Yes.
whether you go to a coach or a mentor or a guru or a therapist. If you're not ready to change, it's not going to happen. It,
Yes. And being ready to change doesn't mean you have all the answers. It just means that, see, so one of the things we talked about is ending loneliness and this feeling of isolation. So this is how I feel, that this decision has to be made in isolation. It has to be made with you and you. But once you've made this choice, you cannot do it alone. You do
no, no,
need to reach out to people.
yeah,
And I
and
love that that's what you do, that you help people with this.
and this is the point. Until we get it in here that we are the only one responsible for ourselves, and this is the biggest thing: is taking responsibility for who we are.
Hmm.
And where we are. And again, so many people look back at their past and they says, oh, it's my mom, or it's my dad, or it's my this, or it's my, they blame other people for where they are. But what they forget is that those people, for instance, leaving my mom's house, 5 years after leaving my mom's house, I can't blame her for my life anymore, because I've just started everything. So you've got to look at the fact that those things were your foundation. You have got to decide, do I keep blaming my past for who I am? Or do I start thinking, hold on, that was 5, 10, 15, or 20 years ago, 50 or 60 years ago. Why am I still blaming my past for who I am?
I love that. I love that you say that, because all those people and caregivers and people that are with us when we're growing up, they're very important influencers in who we are.
That's right.
But it doesn't mean they did everything right. It doesn't mean we have to believe their beliefs. It takes a big person and a grown up person to realize you can break free from that. And what you said is so important, because until you do that, it's important to realize where you came from, but take what you want and leave what you don't.
And I agree with that, because that was one of the things I actually, because of my own experience, I reached a point when my children reached the age of 16, 17, I gave them permission to go live their life.
Mm.
If they need me, they knew where I was. But at the same time, I needed them to go out there, knock their heads, stub their toe, make their mistakes. And when things got a little bit too tough, they can always reach out and say, hey, Daddy, I need a bit of help in a hand here. And that was fine. And that's why I'm now proud of my kids, because if
Figured
I
it out.
wasn't if I wasn't here anymore,
Mm.
they don't need me. And that
Yes.
was the whole point. They don't need me. They can make their own way. They have control of their life. I
And
can have
that's not an easy thing as a parent, because I have a 16-year-old boy upstairs right now. And although I completely agree how important what you just said is, it's not an easy thing as a parent. but it's something that's necessary. And sometimes it's the difficult things that bring the biggest gifts.
Yes, because had I not gone through some of my big things, and had I not gone through some of my traumas, had I not gone to the point of having to sleep in my car at one point, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, those things are it's like a diamond. It's a piece of coal that's been put under pressure. And that's what we are. We're all diamonds in the rough. But in order for us to make our diamond shine, we have to be put under pressure. And then we have to be polished and refined. And that's what life's about. My ideal situation, we're all on a journey. Some journeys are short, some journeys are long. It's not the journey, it's what you do on that journey. And if I can help someone to transform their journey from being miserable to being happy, you see, I could tell people, if I tell people my age, most people struggle with it. Why? Because you see, I've laughed all my life. Everywhere you see me, I'm smiling. Because you know what? Life's too short. I wake up in the morning, it's the best day, it's the best morning. Every morning I wake up. It could be raining, it could be snowing, it could be freezing. It's still the best morning. Why? Because I open my eyes one more time, one other day. And more people, the more I can help people to understand, just taking the first breath in the morning, when you wake up, is the best day of your life. So every day is the best day of my life, even when life is crap.
I love that. I love that mindset, because not every day literally is a great day. But if you change the way you think about it, and if you're grateful, life is so short, and we say that like it means nothing. But when you lose a loved one and you're looking at someone, or something happens tragically in your life, you're reminded of how short that is. So instead of looking at it as a negative thing, let's just remember the gift in that. Let's just remember, do the meditations in the morning, figure out your specific way. It may be one thing for one person and a different way for somebody else. Figure out what works for you so that you can start the morning like that.
That's what I've done throughout my life. And that's what I'm saying. When I get up in the morning, I open the curtains and I'm grateful to actually have that light coming through. I'm grateful that I can see, I can breathe that fresh air in. And this is something that people don't take time, because we're so busy rushing. The funny thing is, when people slow down and take their time, they get more done than when they're rushing around. And I was a servicing engineer I was working on a power supply, and I was around there for 3 hours trying to find this fault on a power supply, which only hasn't got a lot of components in it. I went away and had a cup of tea. I went back and I looked in the power supply, and as soon as I looked in the power supply, I saw the fault. Sometimes we're so focused on something, we create an expanse of time. So I say to people, when something isn't working out, just step away from it for a few minutes, go have a cup of tea, a coffee, whatever, and then come back and look at it again. And I guarantee you probably find the answer, you find a solution there
Yes.
again.
For me, it's putting together furniture. I get so frustrated. I just gotta, the other day I was looking in my car for my phone with my flashlight from my phone in my hand. And I was like, but I'm holding my phone, using it as a flashlight, because our minds are so full. And the more full they are, the less we have room for new experiences. We need to empty that.
And that's what meditation is about. You see, if you take a cup, it's already full. You cannot pour anything else back into that cup. So the only thing you can do is to empty the cup, and you can fill it up again.
Mm.
And most of us don't take that time.
And not
No.
just fill it up, but fill it up with cleaner water, with fresher thoughts.
And that's it. And that is the beauty of it, is actually, and don't be afraid to go and ask for help. That's
Mhm.
most people are afraid of actually being looked down on. But if you don't ask for help, no one's going to help you. If you don't put yourself out there, and yes, you may feel vulnerable, but there are enough people out there, caring, loving people who are willing to give you the time of day.
Mm.
And it's finding those people. So one person don't help you. There are plenty more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're worth it. If
This is
nothing
it.
changes, nothing changes.
Exactly. It's no good doing the same thing every day. You're going to get the same results every day. I spend a lot of time listening to stuff. So I just like hang around every day, don't do much else. But unless I change something, it's not going to change. I'm going to still end up being the same way. I can live as I think Forbes Riley heard this from. She says you can live one day 365 times,
Mm.
or you can live 365 different days.
I love that. That is a perfect way to explain how I want to live. Like, it's so clear. I haven't heard that before, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Somebody once told me, you know, whether you believe in God or a different power or whatever it is, your religious beliefs, at the time that you pass away, what if somebody were to hand you, that person were to hand you this piece of paper and they would have said to you, "So Nelia, Vernon, this is what your life was meant to be. What happened?" It's like, you know?
You see, going on that same subject, I like Shakespeare's concept, is that the whole world is a stage.
Mm,
I'm the star in my own play,
yes.
and I determine who I bring into my life and who I let keep out of my life. Every actor I actually bring into my life, whether male or female, I've attracted them.
They each have a role and you get to choose who your character is. Yes.
And you also choose how they're going to interact with you, because your thinking determines their behavior towards you. Most people think somebody who hurt them, it's them that's hurt. But I asked them to hurt me.
You allowed it.
Exactly. So if I don't take responsibility for the fact that I brought them in and they've actually hurting me for an experience, and this is why now I don't have enemies. I don't hate. The word hate,
Beautiful.
the word hate is a strong one, a very strong emotional word. I might not like somebody, I might not like their behavior, but I don't hate anyone, because why would I hate anyone? We're all God's children, if you want to use the term God.
Mm-hmm.
If they've hurt me, it's because I've allowed them to. And I have to make a choice to deal with it and ask myself, why did I allow it? Because it only happened because of me, not because of them.
Mm. And
And that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do.
yeah, because again, try not to blame yourself. Just realize.
Yes.
If you
Acknowledge
can
it.
see it, yes. If you can acknowledge it, then you can change it. You can prevent it. There's so many things. Vernon, I'm really interested in your answer to this question because I sometimes ask my guests, not all the time, but I'm interested in your answer. So, what would you say is the biggest gift you have ever given yourself that has changed your opinion of who you are, that has let you live a different, better life for yourself?
My biggest gift that I gave to myself, I would have to say it's accepting who I am.
Hmm.
In acceptance of my, knowing I'm not going to call it weakness, knowing the parts of me that are not working for me, being aware of them, and doing whatever it takes to change them to where I believe I desire to be, seeing who I truly, and I know in my being now where I'm heading. But it's taken me a lot of years.
And it takes courage to do that.
It does. I've been working on myself from age 35.
You look 35 now, Vernon. Come on. Look at this contagious smile. If you guys are listening to this on Apple, go check it out on YouTube because he's got the best, beautiful smile ever.
Okay. I was 35 when I started working on myself. And I've been working on myself over 35 years. So you can understand.
What? Come on. Come on. Okay, we got to do everything he's telling us. Come on, people.
Well, put it this way. My biggest change transformation took place when I was 50.
Hmm.
And that, funny enough, came from a situation in my family. And I had to realize that the only person that I could be responsible for was me. When I say my family, I'm talking about my siblings, my brothers, and so forth. That's another story for another time. But that situation happened, and I really had to look at myself and look at me.
Hmm.
Who am I? Why did I need my mother's approval at 50?
Hmm.
And that's crazy. Or why am I looking for a daddy figure at 50?
Wow.
But that came from my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
where I didn't feel I had a dad or a father figure. It took me a lot of years to realize that I don't need a father figure. It took me to the age of 50 to realize I didn't need my mom's approval for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really where my biggest transformation took place. That's when I shifted in my life. That's when I really started to look at myself and thought. And now I've got a lady, Forbes Riley. She is a phenomenal coach. And working with her over the last year has really accelerated my life, the way I think, the way I feel. And what I like about her is that she's a no-nonsense kind of woman.
Yes, I love it.
She doesn't pull her punches. You either like her or you don't. It doesn't really matter to her. And that's what I love about her. Some might say she's got a masculine energy to her, but I love her straight up front.
Honest.
Oh, honest.
No fakeness. It's just tell it like it is. But you know why? Because she wants to help people.
And that's what I like. And
Cut the
because
fat and get to it.
Because I'm a helper.
Yeah.
I resonate with her because nothing. Actually, I printed up a couple of testimonies that I've been given. And one of them was by a guy named Anthony. He says, I was skeptical about it, working with you, but excited. Working with you, Vernon, was very good. It made me feel easy from the start.
Mm.
I was able to talk to 150 people at an event, enjoying it as well. It was the best moments of my life. That was just one simple situation of someone who helped to actually get over the fear of public speaking.
It's beautiful because I know the fear of public speaking and it's big. And behind that testimonial is an actual person, you know, these aren't about numbers, they're about people. And in changing that person's confidence, it takes them further than just that room of speaking. It takes them as a different figure in the family. It takes, you know, their children look at them differently. There's so many things that come out of that.
And that's what I want. That's why I went into this, because I know it wasn't just about that person. It's every other person they touch after I've helped them to lift themselves. You know, I've had so many clients like that. One gentleman, he earned my fee by claiming back stuff from insurance companies that after working with me.
Wow.
So that's the power of, once people change, they can start to see things that they didn't see before. And it's like your car. I bought a Mercedes. I wanted a Mercedes. Until I actually bought my Mercedes, I never saw this my same model Mercedes. I was thinking, where did it all come from?
It's
Everywhere.
true. It's so true. It's like the importance of understanding yourself will change. It's the biggest thing to change your life.
Yes.
Because if you don't understand who you are, you cannot forgive, you cannot look forward, you cannot rise up, you cannot do so many things. And you end up living one day 365 times.
And there's a saying about, are you going to end up in your grave saying, I wish I had? Or are you going to end up in your grave saying, I've done everything that I set out to do. I've had a great life.
That's what I want.
Have a great life. Live your life. Live every day like it's the last.
And the way you choose, not how other people tell you.
Exactly.
You don't have to conform to everybody's schedule. Do things in your own time, in your own way.
You don't have to conform to anybody's standards or anybody's timetable, because you know what? It is actually down to you. You have more control over your life than you ever realize.
Mm.
And we just don't realize it because we're not taught to. We're taught to hustle and bustle and run to other people's timetables. And that's all right if you want to live that way. But if you don't want to live that way, you need to find ways of actually stepping out of your comfort zone. That's the hard part. Stepping out of that comfort zone, because everything you want to achieve in your life is outside your comfort zone.
It's true.
Nothing is going to happen to you if you're going to sit in that little circle that makes you feel safe.
Yeah, life becomes boring, right? Life becomes boring. You know, you were talking about language and you called me out, which I'm really happy that you did, about the I can't. And just changing our language is huge. Like people say, oh, I'm working on myself. That sounds negative to me. It's more like you're discovering who you are. Like that sounds so much more positive.
That's right, because at the end of the day, I discovered at a very young age, well, in my teens, that I was able to help other people find answers to their challenges. The word problems doesn't compute in my head anymore. They're challenges, they're situations that are looking for solutions. And I found I could help. I used to help a lot of my teenage friends with finding their solutions. I wasn't trained. I just got instinctive answers to what they wanted.
And, you know, life is not math. You know, there's not always one answer, one solution to the problem.
No. Yeah. And this is the point, is knowing that's the case, that it's not, no one situation suits all. Each situation is different. Each person is individual, and we have to look at life from that point of view. So all the health issues we have around us, if we have a health issue, we've attracted it. The anxiety, we've attracted it. You know, I love Louise Hay. She was a brilliant woman. But if people read her life story, it was horrendous. Being raped at age 6, traumatized for a number of years where she wasn't able to speak, then ended up with cancer, I believe in her mid-30s, and curing herself because she realized that all the trauma that she had as a child had created a cancer in her body. She lived to the age of 80 plus. The doctors probably wouldn't have given her a chance to live in past 40 at that time.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable what the mind can do with the body.
And that is the point I'm trying to get people. That's what I want to get across here today. Is your mind, when you learn to use it, is the most powerful tool, because Joe Dispenza repaired his spine in 6 places using his mind. Can you imagine how powerful the mind is? We just don't, we're not taught to use it.
Yeah,
When
we're
we
not
learn
taught to be thinkers.
and that's where education
Yes.
is changing. Our education system is changing massively.
Wow, Vernon, you've really enlightened me. I really, really enjoyed and learned from you today. Enjoyed this conversation. You are a lovely human being.
Thank
And I feel your energy, like you said, through the screen. And I want people to really take notes of some of the things we said today. And I just, I love when I know that episodes are going to help the listeners because I know it's helped me. And, I appreciate you coming here today. And is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to leave us with today?
just a curious situation. And this is to do with parents and children. Have you ever noticed when you tell a child, don't spill that drink?
It spills.
I guarantee you, the instant you say they spill it. Can I try and explain my understanding of that?
Yes.
We use the word don't. If you actually separate them, it's do not. When you put them together, the subconscious mind doesn't recognize it.
Mm.
So what the subconscious mind hears is, instead of hearing don't spill that drink, the word don't goes that way, and it hears spill that drink.
Interesting. That's
I
funny.
have observed it so many times.
So true.
Don't spill that drink. Oops.
Like you're bringing something that somebody wasn't even thinking about to the forefront of their thoughts, right?
And so when you say to a child, don't spill the drink, just be aware you're not telling not to because they can't. And the child, it's only the subconscious that's controlling its behavior at that time, not the conscious mind.
I argue it happens with my husband too. Husband, don't spill the drink.
Yeah,
Don't
you
trip
better,
over the plant. Oh, there we go.
yeah.
Just the best.
So it's just about finding other ways of actually expressing those things. Our language is important. Become so crystal clear about what even I still make mistakes, and my sister will say to me, or my mastermind group will tell me, Vernon, but it's about being able to accept the fact that somebody's reminding you of a language that you're using that's not to your benefit.
Mm.
And our language is possible that language is one of the worst form of communication because it's misinterpreted in so many formats and so many ways. And that's why it's so easy for us to make mistakes and create problems for ourselves. So
Yeah,
please,
misunderstandings. There's so many things. I truly have an easier time communicating through music than I do with language
well, it's easy
or
because
art.
music is an emotion,
Mm-hmm.
works from your emotion. Words are hearing, and it depends on your thinking, how it's interpreted. If I can say one thing to someone and they accept it, and I can say to them, but in a different way, and I make them angry.
But I think that goes back to influence again. What we learned, what experiences we had, how our parents spoke to us, how they didn't speak to us, all of those things. So if we can tell what they are and recognize them, then we
Yeah.
can choose again how we respond to things in our life right now, in our present situation.
The other little thing I'd like to this is the word no. How many times in a child's life does it get told no? Mommy, can I have a no? Can I go out? No. Daddy, no. And then we spend our life now being afraid of hearing the word no in our adult life. How many times have we as adults been afraid of hearing the word no?
Yes.
Don't came from those child. This is what I'm saying. When you become aware of those things, it gives you permission to change them. So just, all I'm actually saying, just be aware of where our fears, our anxieties are coming from. I work with a young lady who came to me because her brother had dealt with him from fear of flying. He said persisted from a fear of flying. When I took her into a hypnosis state, I asked her where she on the plane. She's a little girl. She was about 7. She's running around on the plane, enjoying herself. And I says, okay, so who around you is afraid of flying? She says, my mom. When she came out, that was the only session she ever did with me. Because the instant she realized she wasn't the one that was afraid, it broke the taboo of fear of flying.
Interesting.
This is what I'm saying. We just have to sometimes look back or even be aware of where those things come from. Once we acknowledge them, we can let them go. No? Well,
and change the show and the stage of life.
Exactly. So I hope that what I've given is helpful to a lot of people out there. The aim was to give as much as possible, and hopefully as they listen to it again, they'll get more and more from it. So it's been brilliant. I've loved it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're here. And yeah, of course, you gave everything I want people. So where can people find you? I know that you're offering a taster.
I call it a taster session, or
it
could be a disc. It's a disc. They can actually go to my website, which is www.therapypod.co.uk.
Wonderful. I'm going to put all the links there for you. And I really want people to connect with you. Sometimes people are afraid to reach out because they think that, oh my goodness, if I reach out with this person and it doesn't work, or if we don't jive, or if I reach out to this person, they just want my money. Life is not about that. We have to start thinking about things in different ways. Okay. And if you haven't learned that through this episode, we need to hear it again, because obviously, Vernon is a very easy person to talk to. He's a human being just like us. He's very easily approachable. He's interested. He's helpful. He's genuine. So just have a conversation with him. What do you got to lose? Just reach out to him, and you may be very pleasantly surprised in what you learn about yourself. So thank you. Thank you, Vernon, so much.
My pleasure. It's been a pleasure spending time with you and talking to you.
Thank you.
And I, as I said, my love goes out to everybody that listens to it, whether it's now or later. And thank you again for listening.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you, Vernon. I knew you were the right person to come on here today. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.